All right, well, let's start with TNA and their wild week. And a rare bright spot, perhaps, in a messy week for the company. Trey Miguel has re signed with the company. TNA announced earlier today. The terms aren't known, but the 31-year-old is staying put. It's worth noting after 6 months with the company, and we'll get to the details of that for those who forget, but it's worth noting he's currently on the shelf with a patella injury. No surgery needed, but it's kept him out since Rebellion back in April. A 6 to 8 time frame has been put on that injury. Some context for all of this TNA stuff, and I'll keep it brief because it's been chewed over all week, really, pretty thoroughly on Wednesday's Rewind to Dynamite and last night on Paul and Thurston, so go there for the full picture. But this re-signing lands the same week TNA confirmed a workforce reduction and a wave of notable exits, including Tommy Dreamer, Tessa Blanchard, and Sami Callihan. Some of whom have had a few things to say about it. Steve Macklin and Mila Grace already exited a couple of weeks ago. And there's a wrinkle on Tessa Blanchard specifically. On CMLL's media show on YouTube this week, Blanchard said that TNA had made her choose to be either a TNA wrestler or a CMLL wrestler. And she'd chosen Mexico. I will say that Fightful had reported this the other way about, that it was CMLL who forced the choice, and that they book her more and that they pay her more. And that's why she'd asked for her release from TNA. But either way, she's gone to CMLL. Miguel's an interesting one because I'm not so sure that he had any other meaningful options at this point. Folks will remember he was very, very briefly an AEW signing in January alongside the other Rascals. For like about 5 minutes before he got released, before he even showed up on TV. So I don't know, does re-signing a guy, what do you think about Trey Miguel? Feels like another option of the bigger promotions wasn't really there for him.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great signing. I think it's a type of signing that is like the right path that I think you want to see this company head towards, as opposed to names like Ezekiel Elias or, I don't know, I'm sorry, Sonya Deville, like names like that, that it just don't really offer, I think, what the type of fan TNA is trying to attract wants. And that's great in-ring wrestling of a modern standard, which Trey Miguel certainly, and the rest of the Rascals certainly like can provide. I will say though, I thought we'd be hearing a whole lot more about him, like immediately following that whole thing in January. Like to me, it was a rare case where, okay, this guy is not suddenly signed and is sort of forced to like, be heartbroken, because of reasons that, yes, many people may consider, I think, like justifiable. And to remind people, I believe it was due to like homophobic tweets, or at least tweets. I don't even exactly remember.
We covered it in a news pack a couple of months, well, way back at this point, because just after it happened on a Friday night. And I got access to the comments, and I think some of them were Facebook replies, some of them were tweets. To be honest, I've seen an awful lot worse. He was dealing with a troll and really sort of went to the bottom of the barrel for some of his responses. But I'm not sure that they were egregious as some of the things we've seen, and I felt he was somewhat harshly treated. By it seems WBD rather than AEW. They seem to make those calls on occasion.
So it really did feel like we were in another sort of Briscoe's, Jay Briscoe situation with Trey Miguel. And there seemed to be, I feel at least comfortable in saying, a lot of public sentiment that were feeling sympathetic for Trey Miguel. TNA gets him back. And I would have expected them to have made a bigger deal out of him, like meaning push him to the very top, And I don't know if I wonder what sort of commitment he was offering at that point, if he's re-signing right now. So I don't know, maybe that there was some holdback there, but like there was an opportunity to me to like push a guy that I think people want to see push. You have a story built in for somebody who maybe was unjustly, had their sort of like ambitions taken away that you could now use, right? And I mean, I guess he's been active. He got injured, but even before the injury, I didn't really hear that much about him being a major player. So I wonder if this resigning, now that they have a further commitment with him, provided that he comes back and is healthy, if they will actually put him in that spot. Because again, much like Kurt Angle, actually, back in I don't know, like the late 2000s, you have somebody that the other company does, like, probably sees as talented, but for whatever reason does not want to use or cannot use in AEW's case. So that to me like feels like he's the type of guy you want to spotlight. He's the type of guy that you can say, hey, this is not a guy that we're likely to lose anytime soon, but he can be seen as a top guy who, for whatever reason, is not able to perform. Tessa Blanchard, I think, also represented a very similar type of mold, a person that like almost perfectly fit into TNA, but perhaps in how she's handled what she has been accused of, or just how the public sees what she thinks of what she's been accused of. That's been a little bit tougher. Well, certainly a lot tougher for her to overcome.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, my honest take on all of this way is that TNA isn't on television over here. I really have to go to some hoops to watch it, or pay for TNA Plus, which isn't going to happen with the level of other wrestling that I see. And I think all of this drama this week has just deepened my lack of interest in the product. I think the other interesting point to me is compared to this time last year and even the tail end of last year, really since they've landed on AMC, the cross-pollination with NXT has receded an awful lot. It's been notably thinner. I mean, beyond Stax and Ariana Grace, and there's kind of that key route in there, with her father, of course. There's been very little going on, and the two promotions not go directly head to head, but are on the will have shows on the same day next week with Slammiversary and Great American Bash. So I'm wondering, what's going on there. We'll see, I guess. But we don't need to relitigate the whole Exits saga. Wednesdays, Rewind to Dynamite, and Thursdays, Pollock and Thurston have covered that.
Yeah, beyond like maybe there being, more re-signings or departures being announced, the next big topic is about who takes over as head of creative. Road Dogg is hinted to, or at least like speculated by many as the top choice, or at least most likely person to take that role. We'll see if that's confirmed, and if that is the case, we'll see what he does and who might be coming in with him to support him.
Yeah, that would not entice me to tune in, but we shall see what happens.
The month of June on the Post Wrestling Cafe is going to feature 2 editions of Rewind Away. Already in your feeds is a retrospective on the career of Manami Toyota. Plus, we are discussing WWE's WrestleMania 33 event from 2017, highlighted by the return of the Hardys, John Cena gets down on one knee, and Roman Reigns attempts to retire The Undertaker. Plus, we have coverage this month of New Japan's Dominion card. It's an Ask Away mailbag show as we take all of your questions. I will be sitting down to chat about UFC Freedom 250 with Neil Flanagan, and so much more. All of that can be yours at postwrestlingcafe.com.